Hey, good morning, everybody. It's me, Robert Phoenix, and I am here with the Astro Weather. Astro Weather. Astro Weather. I feel like I should have some sort of like a, I don't know, like a crawl. I think if I used StreamYard, I have a crawl bottom. A little do 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 today. Oh, I can hear myself. The Astro. I don't like hearing myself. Remember the first time you ever heard your voice on a tape recorder? Remember that? It's like so exciting. You get to hear your voice, and then you hear your voice go, "What the hell is that? Who is that?" For years, I just, oh my, look, sounds like an oaf. And even when I was a kid, I have Jupiter and Sagittarius in my first house, so it's big belly laughs, right? As a kid, I would have these giant guffaws, and I'd hear myself laugh like, "Oh my God, you sound like a giant oaf when you laugh." See, there it is. All right, how is everybody this morning? Man, there's turbulence, turbulence in the air, isn't there? Turbulence in the air. We're going to get into some of that over on 15 minutes. Good old Chick-fil-A joins the Fool's Parade, and we'll get into that and some other stuff over there. But today we've got the Astro Weather, and I hope everybody had a more than reasonable yesterday. We're in Pride Month. Hello. I was going to wear my rainbow cap, but couldn't find it. I couldn't find my rainbow cap. For some reasons, it was not accessible. But I do take pride in what I do, which is why I want to get here on time. That is my definition of pride. That's my taking pride in what you do and how well you do it. Right. So when we talk about pride, we can have a discussion about Leo. It's a good segue, isn't it? Leo, when we think of a lion, what does a lion have? A lion has a pride. They call the lion's family, with the cubs and all, a pride. So we look at Leo as a sign that is associated with pride. And there are a number of derivations and definitions of pride that if we wanted to spend an entire show diving into, we could. But today we're looking at really two and how they impact today's sky, which is, by the way, boys and girls, a grand cross, fixed grand cross. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. There are some things you cannot fix, and there are other things where you've got the nut on the bolt, and it's so freaking tight, and you can't move it. You can't move it. You do everything. You can't move it. It's locked in there. It's like a grand cross and a fixed sign. So you have to find other ways in order to undo the nut. Right. This looks like the top of a kind of a screw, like one of those square, not quite a flathead, but close. Right, where you can get in there and get your ratchet on it or something like that. But let's go back to pride before I wander too much off the path here. So the definitions of pride, there's a pride that has to do with ego and envy, right? That is the dark side of pride, ego and envy. And when we flaunt our identities, and we are not our identities are a portion of who we are, but not the totality of who we are. But when we flaunt our identities in a way that is imbalanced, then we are indulging in an act of pride. We are putting our identity before other aspects or elements of who we are. And for those of you who are believers and have faith, the idea is that you would put God first, because that would be the greater thing to do, right? That would be the greater thing to do. And you don't necessarily have to be a Christian in order to do that. Although certainly it is woven into the tapestry of Christianity, right? So there is something here about the balance between the personality and the transpersonality that is kind of a gatekeeper for pride, right? Then there's another version of pride, and this is, I believe, the true definition of pride is to take great care for the work that you do, right? You have pride. If you're a craftsman, for instance, and I use the word craftsman without apology, you would take pride in what you do. You wouldn't cut corners. You wouldn't use cheap materials, because as a craftsman or a craftswoman, you would know and understand that that is exactly what you would be doing. And this is where we link up with this idea of the individual or the personal and the transpersonal. Because if you know that you're cutting corners, then who else knows that you're cutting corners? God does, right? The all-seeing eye within the mindscape and soul and spirit of who you are. Not the all-seeing eye on the other side of this experience, but that, right? So you take pride in your work, because as you take pride in your work, you are uplifting. You're uplifting and glorifying creation itself, right? That is, and if you don't, then you're cheating creation, and you're cheating other people, and you're cheating yourself. And we live in a world where everything is being degraded, right? So people have less pride. So it's as if we have transposed the meaning of pride in the world. And so we have this egoic identification with identity versus a spiritual relationship with the things that we do and do well, because to do anything less than that would be absolutely cheating the system, not the system. I don't want to use the word, absolutely cheating creation itself. And I know a lot of you have things that you do out there. You're healers, you're gardeners. Some of you are, well, I'll put astrologers, or you're in the healing camp, or you're somebody who has a craft or a trade, and you take pride in what you do. There are people who left their jobs in 2020 and 2021 because they had too much pride in working for an establishment or a system that made them do things that would be counterintuitive to this whole idea of work and care and really taking pride in what one does, right? So it's a different definition of pride. So when we get into Leo, right, we get into Leo, and here we've got Mars. Venus is getting ready to transit out of Cancer into Leo. So it won't be a Venus-Mars conjunction. Well, it will be wide. It'll be a wide Venus-Mars conjunction. But, Mars and Leo can be very demanding. It can be very demanding. And this is one of those days where people can just grate on you, right? Demanding. Notice who I am. Notice what I do. Pay attention. If you're not paying attention, then you don't get me. You don't love me. You don't understand me. And I think that there is some truth to people who, if you're in a relationship with somebody, yeah, you want to make sure that that person feels recognized, right? But ultimately, it's not your responsibility to do that. You can choose to do that. You choose to do that by having reciprocal relationships. And so here we have Venus in Cancer, which is the sign of reciprocity. We see the yin and the yang. We see the give and the take, the masculine and the feminine. And Venus right here is on the outlier. And it's challenged today, right? Venus is challenged today. If anything, we have this sextile with Uranus going on with Venus, which is kind of interesting, right? And when I see this Grand Cross, I don't want to say it's like a setup for failure, but I would say that if something doesn't go your way today, and you're not ready to climb the mountain today, take a break. Just take a break. You know, Mount Everest isn't scaled overnight. You know, there's sometimes you get these storms and you got to camp out on a part of the mountainside or the cliff face or whatever. You got to wait for the storm to pass. In the meantime, there can be interesting things that can happen, right? Maybe during the downtime, you realize that, oh, okay, well, if I do this or have this approach and I keep going down this path and it keeps coming up, empty, then maybe you need to reassess your approach. And with the Venus Uranus sextile today, it really is an opening to reassessing your approach and looking outside of your own network for solutions or people that can assist you with your challenges. Because we got challenges today. There's no doubt about it. We've got the South Node and there's that moon in Scorpio and everything is just so intense. Everybody's feeling the intensity, right? Chick-fil-A is now on the hit parade. And like I said earlier, I'll talk about that. But today is not one of these, oh, I'll just take the middle path day. Now, there is, if you have you keep running into resistance today, then that's a clear sign that you should just, at the very least, take a break and try to reassess your approach. Okay. That's important. It doesn't mean you should give up. It doesn't mean that you should just throw in the towel with a grand cross. You can't do that, right? We are dealing with these hardcore fixed elements today. You got to climb the mountain, but you can take a break and you can kind of reassess, am I going up the right path? Do I need to circumnavigate here? Oh, well, everybody's going this way. And, oh, guess what, right? For whatever reason, the ice pack is unsteady. So maybe we should go this way. But it doesn't mean you should stop. It just means that you should take time out and reassess how you're approaching things. Do not get into a pissing match today with people, okay? Because that could be a really problematic, not even a strategy, just a reaction, okay? I know this is going to be challenging for a lot of people, and I'll raise my hand here. But unless you're willing to go to the mat and really go to the mat, and you better be really clear what that issue is. If you're willing to go to the mat and you want to incorporate this grand cross and you want to put a chokehold, a metaphorical chokehold, right? In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, today's your day. Right? Today is your day. If that's where you want to go. And sometimes you have to go to the mat. Right? This is just the way it is. Sometimes you have to go to the mat. And maybe if you're really motivated and focused, you'll get that person to tap out. And there you go. Grand Cross. You've mastered something, right? You've mastered your fear. You've mastered the intensity, the anger, the frustration, and there's a lot of it today. A lot. When the moon moves into Sagittarius 2 days from now for change, we'll have a very different relationship with the sky. It's going to be a full moon, and people just want to break out, right? They want to break out with that full moon in Sag. So with the Grand Cross, if you want to go to the mat, do it. But you better make sure that you're willing to go all the way. There's no halfway measures with the Grand Cross. There is no halfway. It's either all or nothing, right? And if you have to essentially take a bit of a breather and reassess your approach today, or even in the short term with certain things you've been working on, it's not a bad day to do that. It doesn't mean you give up, though. You cannot get out of the challenges here, right? But there are some interesting outs. Venus Mars, we're coming up on this interesting Venus Mars conjunction, which I've talked about in terms of how it looks with identity, masculine, feminine, all the things that go along with it. And we still have this really nice Venus trine to Neptune. So if you find the right people that are going to be more amenable to your cause, today's a good day to recruit those people, right? With the Venus Neptune trine, things can go easier when you have the right contacts, the right contracts, and the right networks. Right? So you want to look for sympathetic allies. That's really important. With sympathetic allies, you're not pushing the boulder up the hill by yourself. You can get some help here, right? So we have a couple of different paths today. We have the Grand Cross, and if you have to get into it, if you have to get into the octagon, then you're in, and you've got to go all the way. There's no halfway measure. Can you employ some of these other energies? Yeah, sure, you can. Absolutely. Or you can have a brief timeout, reassess what you're doing, and call in the troops, call in the reinforcements. You can do that. Today is a very explosive day. It's explosive. And I haven't even covered I've covered maybe 15 to 20% of this chart today. Like if this was a person's chart, I'd be here for 3 fucking hours with a chart like this because of the intensity involved. Now, the good news is that Saturn, with the exception of the square to the sun, so again, we're redefining our loyalties. I just keep coming back to the Chick-fil-A thing. Everybody thought Chick-fil-A was, oh, they're so good. They're a company with Christian values. This is such bullshit. I exposed Chick-fil-A back in 2020. And I'm going to do that on my show again today. But other than that, Saturn is pretty well aspected. We got the trine to the moon. We got the sextile to Mercury, right? We have a bit of an inconjunct there with Mars. So let's end this portion of the show with the Mars in conjunct Saturn, which is right here. You're more powerful than you think. You're more powerful than you think. Just remember that. Not in an egoic or prideful way, but you're more powerful than you think when it comes to tapping into the divine and tapping into the spirit, the true spirit of God, not the fake spirit of God, not the world spirit of God, the true cosmic spirit of God. When you are aligned with that, really aligned with that, there's nothing that can stop you. And that's part of today's lesson. Part of today's lesson, right? So here's your Astro Weather. Put your high beams on and proceed with caution or full speed ahead. That's a Gemini statement, isn't it? Okay, let's get into the star of the day. We're talking real stars. Yesterday was the mighty Clint Eastwood, and today it is these are icons. These are real icons, and today is no different. Today's star of the day, Norma Jean Mortensen. That right there is a tip off that you're dealing with a Gemini. She's got 2 names. Of course, if you're listening, you're not seeing the visual. That's Marilyn Monroe. And between Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield, 2 of the hottest blonde bombshells in, I would say, modern American pop culture, right? And probably, if you're ranking them, it's probably Monroe than Mansfield, only because Monroe had the greater body of work. Although I would say that Mansfield and Monroe's bodies were both equally worked. What a chart! Another Grand Cross person, right? So, oh, you know what? Shit, that's the wrong chart. Oh, your chart. That's the wrong chart. Shit, it happens, right? At least I didn't get into it too much. Where is she? Come on, Marilyn. Where'd you go? Let's do this. My bad. Got to go back into my settings. Go back into the charts. Give me 1 sec, because I did do her chart. I did her chart. See how I caught myself there? Man, it was good. Give myself a pat on the back. All right, here we go. Where are you? Maryland. Let's go. So they have a new function on astro.com, which allows me to search. Oh, where are we? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. I just did this damn chart. Okay, give me one sec here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I just had it. There's that. And where are we? Got to redo it. Welcome to the Grand Cross. June 1st. June 1st. How about that? Are you feeling it? All right. By the way, I think we're going to start cranking the yacht back up. Lannis Morissette's birthday is today, too. Geminis are totally fascinating. You know, this normally on Sunday night, I get into Gemini when the sign breaks, we get into the season of the sign, but I wasn't here on Sunday night. So that is not going to happen. Didn't happen last week, but maybe we'll do a kind of a late Gemini season on Sunday night, just so the Geminis don't feel left out. We don't want them to feel left out. All 10 of them. No, there's a lot of Geminis. I was referring to the personality. Okay, we're almost there. All right. There we go. There. Aha. All right. Let me just edit this bad boy, bring it back up, and we'll have her chart on full display. It's a very interesting chart, actually. And it's one of these very instructive charts when it comes to astrology. And there we go. We have Monroe's chart. All right, let's do this. Thanks for your patience. Right, so she's our star of the day. And we have Leo on the ascendant, right? And she's a star, She radiates that Leonine sort of warmth on the ascendant. And then there's Neptune. And people have Neptune on or near the ascendant. They're interesting people. They're archetypes. Because people put their projection on Neptune ascending or Neptune rising people. So with Marilyn Monroe, of course, she could be a goddess, and she could also be seen as something else, tragic figure, whatever. Neptune in the first house is like a mirror, right? And she definitely has some interesting mother issues. Black Moon Lilith. I wonder how women in the 1950s and 60s felt about Marilyn Monroe. I bet they didn't like her. Grand Trine, Pluto, true node in Cancer, very interesting. For somebody who was so public, all they really wanted to do was hang out and on some level just be kind of peaceful and alone, theoretically. But with this chart, it ain't going to happen, right? Grand Trine, water, she's going to move people, right? Saturn, fourth house, difficult upbringing, very challenging upbringing, but redemptive in that she can tap into this Grand Trine and alter the course of her life. A very occult eighth house. And we have Uranus here at 29 Pisces and Mars at 20 Pisces. And we have this in conjunct with Neptune. It's very kind of deep and mystical. And there are forces operating in Marilyn Monroe's life behind the scenes that we're not aware of. Although if you dig deep enough, you'll find some of them. She spent some time on Catalina Island, married to a soldier. And my theory is that that's where what I would call her programming, some of her programming was at Catalina Island. And she has very unusual choices for partners, right? Like just look at the guy she married, fucking Joe DiMaggio. He's a total stiff. It's just weird. She marries Joe DiMaggio. She marries the playwright Arthur Miller, Death of a Salesman guy. She's banging John F. Kennedy. She's banging RFK, right? She's banging Anton LaVey, whom she had a relationship with, right? This is all over here in the seventh house with Jupiter and the moon in Aquarius. Very strange. But these are lots of relationships and unusual relationships at that. And one gets the sense that she's trying to break free, right? With the squares, with Jupiter and the moon squaring Saturn, she's trying to break free from the story of her upbringing. Venus is in Aries. It's the highest planet in her chart. And we associate this part of her chart with Marilyn Monroe, right? We have Venus in Aries, which is hot. It's smoldering. I would say that Venus in Aries, in terms of Venus, is one of the sexier appellations of Venus in the chart. The downside is that it's in its opposite sign. And it's all about now, right? It's in its fall here in Aries. And with Marilyn Monroe, might be too much now. And then she has Chiron in Taurus. And, she's, again, one of these people who probably just did not feel very comfortable in her own skin. And having connections and or adulation and sex probably made her feel more comfortable in some ways with this Venus Chiron conjunction. And then the midheaven here is important because it's in Taurus. When you get into Taurus, you get into Venus energy, the Venus rulership, right? So Venus rulership here, Venus at the highest planet, highest point in your chart. We have the Venus part of fortune conjunction. So she's going to have Venus really be her stock and trade. That's what she's going to be known for. And there was always this sense that Marilyn Monroe is really smart. Well, she's got Mercury and Gemini. Of course she's smart. And she has Mercury conjunct her sun. And with the sun in front of Mercury, she is a bit of a risk taker, isn't she? Act now, think about the consequences later, right? It's an interesting chart. Not very grounded. Not very grounded. What does she have? She's got Chiron in Taurus. Boom, right there. South Node in Capricorn. That's it, boys and girls. That's it. In the midheaven, hardly any earth, right? She was fiery, right? And she's had a lot of emotional content. And yet, with all the fire and the emotional content, there's a part of her that is also cerebral and very detached. She's just a very unusual chart. And of course, she's a highly unusual person, which really makes her quite iconic. All the Venus is it's the magic that makes up the chart in a lot of way. And Leo on the ascendant and the projection that goes along with it. There you go. Star of the day, Marilyn Monroe. We're two big stars in a row today. Well, yesterday and today. All right. I got to hustle, but come on, meet me over on 15 Minutes of Flame. That's right here. And we got a nice little crew on the other side. I'm going to be running a bit behind today on the 15-minute side. So if you're coming over there, please give me a little bit of time. And don't forget to support and patronize True M Science, who is a sponsor of the show. If you're into CBD, and I can't tell you how important CBD can be, especially if it's infused with the right ingredients to help maintain one's body-mind connection with a more than reasonable degree of homeostasis. It's an important item that you should add to your supplement list. And you can do that at truehempscience.com. All you got to do is type in 15MINS, 15MINS, and guess what happens? Spend $100 more, you get free product. That's 15MINS at truehempscience.com. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Have a blessed day. We'll see you in 15 minutes. Bye for now.